Example 4 in section 5.1 is the example that every single year gives people the most difficulty. So I don't know. It's real important to pay attention to this, and I don't know if you have issues in class, make sure you ask. All right. So we got the fifth root of 32, m to the 15. What I personally like to do is break this down into two separate parts. So I got the fifth root of 32, fifth root of m to the 15. Okay. That right there is totally legal. Okay. You can totally break these down to separate parts. Fifth root of 32, we've already done a couple times. That's just going to give me 2. So we're good right there. Fifth root of m to the 15 is where people start falling apart. Okay. Because I got letters involved. So we need to think m to what power multiplied by itself 5 times is going to give me to 15. For a lot of people, that's difficult to visualize in their mind. So what I personally like to do when I have a letter is switch it back to a rational exponent. So remember, if I have a fractional exponent, up top is the exponent, down below is the root. Okay, so the fifth root of m to the 15 is the same as m to the 15 over 5 power. And m to the 15 over 5, if you think about that, 15 divided by 5 is just 3. So that's going to leave me with m cubed, and that takes care of our letter. We're done. Okay, so that would be A simplified. The fifth root of 32 m to the 15 is the same as 2m to the 3 power. On B, you got multiple letters going on. And instead of trying to just visualize in my mind, I'm going to go ahead and switch these into rational exponents. So this would turn into x to the 20 over 4, and then y to the 8 over 4. Go ahead and do the division. 20 divided by 4 is 5, so I'm left with x to the 5. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Leaves me with y squared. And that's it. It's as far as that has to go. Example 5 is the real, I don't know, the reason for these notes, okay, for this section is we want to be able to solve. All right. Whenever you're solving an equation, the first thing we have to do each and every single time is go ahead and get x by itself. So on A, you go ahead, divide each side by 2. And when we do, we're going to be left with x to the 5th power equals 32. Once you get to that point right there where there's no coefficient on the x, we go ahead and get rid of the exponent. So there's 2 ways to get rid of the exponent. Since I'm raised to the 5th power, you can either raise each side to the 1/5. Okay, so that would make it go away. So whatever the exponent is, you just raise it to the flipped power. Or you can also think if I'm raising the 5 power, I could take the 5th root of each side. Makes it go away. Either way, we're going to be left with x equals 32 to the 1/5, which, like I just said, is the same as the 5th root of 32. 5th root of 32 is just going to be 2. Okay. On these, you really have to pay attention on whether or not we're taking an even or odd root. If we take an even root, you have to have the plus or minus. If it's an odd root, you just have the positive. Okay. So that's that right there. For B, we need to go ahead and first off divide each side by 5. So you have 320 divided by 5. Boom, boom. So we're left with x cubed equals, what's that going to be? 64, I think? Yeah, 64. And then from there, now that the x is by itself, you can go ahead and take the cube root of each side. The cube root of 64 is going to be 4. Again, it was an odd root, so we're fine. We just leave it alone. X equals 4. Last one on this page, C. You have to get the letter by itself, so give her that coefficient. Divide each side by 2, giving us p to the 4 equals 81. And then now that there's no coefficient on the letter, you take the 4th root of each side. So raise each side to the 1/4. And we're going to be left with p equaling. So what times itself 4 times? It's going to end up being 3. Okay, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3, 81. Now this time we got to worry about it. We took the 4th root. Since that's an even root, you got to make sure plus or minus. Okay, and like I said, that's because we took an even root. All right, so those are just the basic equation solving problems. On example 6, they get into a story problem. And I mean, really here, all you got to do, they give you a huge story problem here. They're just asking you to solve for x. Okay, so here's your function right here, your equation. Want to solve for x. There's no coefficients on the outside. So really, the first thing I have to do is get rid of this exponent 3. So the way you get rid of the exponent 3 is raise each side to the 1/3 power. So I'm going to be left with x plus 2 equals 729 raised to the 1/3 power. So on your calculator, there's a couple ways you can go about doing that. You can either raise 729 to the 1/3 power, or you can take the cube root of 729. Honestly, in class, we will never have anything, we won't have a number that big, okay? But what it does end up working out to is being 9. So you have x plus 2 equals 9. For this, since it was an odd root, it's just the positive 9. If it was an even root, you'd have to have both the positive, so one equation for the positive and one equation for the negative. But in this case, since it's an odd root, we just leave it positive 9. And then to finish it up, you subtract each side by 2, giving us x equals 7.